Hi, my name is Patty McGarrahan from The Mind's Eye, and I am here today with Maxine Hutchins, and we're going to be talking about some holistic activities and holistic things today. So, Maxine, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I'm excited. So we were laughing because we don't feel that we have any need to figure out what we were talking about because we do just fine. But why don't we start out with you describing how you ended up getting into holistics?
So when I was getting a divorce back in my 40s, I had insomnia really bad. So someone recommended that I go get a tape on meditation. So I went to a metaphysical bookstore and bought a tape, and then that led me to taking classes. So I started taking classes every Friday night, sometimes on a Saturday, and I studied all kinds of different things.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
A lot of bags in my drinks. I said psychic detective, shaman, Reiki, hypnosis, psychic medium.
And it kind of goes like that. So I started with like the meditation classes, and then I started taking, like I studied astrology and dream therapy, and I studied with one woman for a couple of years on astro projection and stuff like that.
Travel.
Yep, astro travel, and then I did take Reiki 1. I did feng shui, which I love, and love teaching like a basic 101 class on feng shui.
No, you should do that sometime.
I do that. It's a lot of fun.
Like it.
Then I learned how to read cards, and I loved the way she taught us to read cards. It was not really like textbook. This card means this and this position. It was, she would take a card and she would have us look at it for a minute and then turn it over and draw what we remembered from it.
Oh, nice.
So it really honed in on what you felt from the card.
Well, I had my learning how to read cards. I had a girl that I read a picture, like didn't know I was doing anything, but read a picture. I always knew I had some of it, do you know what I mean?
Right.
But I said to her, how come your daughter isn't your husband's? And that's the youngest child, so of course I have to cause a little stir, you know? And she took me into the bathroom because we worked at the same club at night, do you know what I mean? And she took me into the bathroom under the light, and I had said to her, it's because you and your husband have green eyes. Your son has green eyes, but the little girl's got brown eyes, and that's impossible to green-eyed people. So she turned around and she goes, how are you seeing the color of the eyes? The family picture was like this size.
Right.
And so anyway, the next day she bought me a deck of cards from Sari's bookstore that's been gone for like 100 years. And she bought me a deck of cards, and then I became her everyday reader, do you know what I mean? But after a very short while, I didn't like the book, and I just tossed the book away. And I just read the cards.
Yes.
And then 15 years later, I took a class. Somebody asked me to go with them to a class down in Wakefield of beginners tarot. I took the class. By the 4th class, I couldn't do it because it was too much detail in what I did naturally. But she told me, get a different deck of cards, and it will combine what she taught me with what I did naturally.
Yes.
And it did.
I have probably 5 or 6 decks of cards, different ones.
I have about 40 or 50.
I bet you do.
Yes.
And I like to use different ones at different times.
I use almost the same ones. I just like having them. Yep.
Yep, fun. It's fun.
I'm teaching a class in where you find out your animal spirit guide tomorrow night, and also doing shape shifting. So you look through the eyes of your spirit animal. And somebody got me a fabulous new deck of tarot cards, animal tarot cards. So I'm going to have people draw cards as well, and I'm so excited about it.
So this is tomorrow night?
Tomorrow night,
I might have to check that out.
Yeah,
I don't
check
think
it out.
I have
Brandy's
anything.
coming.
I don't think, well, I'll have to ask her then if I
you
can
have to ask
go.
permission. I give you permission.
You give me permission,
I give you
all
permission,
right.
Yeah. So now, didn't Brandy, who we talked about, didn't she, some of her abilities and everything, get you thinking a little bit in the holistic ways? I know we're not supposed to talk much about her, but I don't care.
I don't care. Actually, she just seemed to have more of a connection. And I think because I had started looking into some stuff that I was more open when she started coming up with things. So I didn't say, oh no, you can't do that, you know. Like she had imaginary child friends when she was little. She had one that was at my mom's house here in Rhode Island. We lived in Mass, and that one could not go to Massachusetts.
Oh, that's a riot.
And she was upset because she couldn't understand why that friend couldn't visit her at her house, could only visit her at her grandmother's house.
Oh, that's
because
great.
Because that's where the child had passed in that neighborhood.
I'm doing readings for a lot of women that are opening up grandmothers and mothers, and they're opening up for kids like that.
Oh, wow.
And I was very fortunate because mine didn't get squished down because my brother had an imaginary friend, quote, quote, and
right.
My father had the restaurant set a table for him. Do you know what I mean? Everywhere we went, and at home a table set was set for him.
That's nice.
And my stuff, they shook their head a little bit, but they were like pretty cool about it. And my favorite story is we were up in New Hampshire for the very first time, and I said to my father, "Can you go that way?" I'm 5 years old.
Right.
And he goes, "Why?" I said, "Because there's a building with a cow on the top, and we can make our own sundaes." So my father and mother look at each other like, what's wrong with this kid? Took the road, and there was the cow on the top, and you could make your own sundaes. So.
And they look at you like, okay.
No, my father just accepted everything. My mother used to say, "This is Judy, this is Joan, this is Patty, my different one, and this is Billy, my son." But I grew up loving being the different one. I loved it, you know.
That's great.
So that's so cool, but it's so great that you noticed that she had it in it, so you didn't squish it,
I didn't
and
squish
stuff.
it, yeah.
And that's why I've got a lot of people coming to me. I'm very excited.
I think if I hadn't been studying stuff myself, I might not have been as open to it. It comes from my mother's mother, from my grandmother's side.
Yep.
And even you know, my nephew has some ability. I remember one time he was, my mother used to collect these little shoes. You remember the shoes in the purses?
Yes, yes.
And he was at his grandfather's house playing with him. My mother had passed. And he was yelling at him, "Don't play with that stuff, that's not yours." And he said, "That's okay, the lady said I could," right? So the next day he's visiting at his house, and there's one of the shoes, and he gets all over him for stealing it. He says, "I didn't steal it, the lady told me I could have it." And he was like, "What lady?" And he goes over to a picture of my mother and points at it.
Don't you love it? Don't you love it?
And he'd never met her. He was only 3 at the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
My grandson did something similar. He came out with a baseball cap with this little rim that my daughter has no idea where it came from, no idea, whatever. And he goes, "Uncle Billy got it for me." And so he was 6 months old when my brother passed away.
Right.
And he says to me, "Yes, that's who brought it to me."
Yeah.
Isn't it great? It's
And
so
unfortunately,
exciting.
we kill that in them. You know, we say, "Oh no, that can't be true. That's not possible. You're not seeing that," that type of thing.
So that's great that you didn't do that with your daughter, and I'm so appreciative to my parents, even when they thought, like, what is she doing?
Right.
And I did discover they both had it. My mother became very reclusive because she saw death, but she
didn't know how to handle it.
Didn't know how to handle it. My father, we thought all his intuitiveness was because he had like 160-something IQ. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So everything was smart. And it wasn't until after he passed that I realized smart cannot figure that out.
No.
You know
It's
I mean?
usually the opposite.
Absolutely.
They're usually clueless about that stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, so what else did you get involved in? I know you've been involved in a lot of different stuff.
So I did do the Reiki. I did the Tarot for a while.
Oh, nice.
I found that doing...
Explain what Tarot is.
I don't know how to explain it. It's like the Tree of Life. I kind of did that last of everything I had done, and it was kind of like you see those puzzles where all the pieces start forming together.
Yes.
It brought everything together like that. That's what it really opened up.
I did it with a woman in Narragansett.
Yeah, I studied mediumship, but I don't have the talent that my daughter has for that. She's just like, turn on the switch. And I worked in a haunted group home. I won't mention where.
Okay.
And on Friday nights, my daughter used to bring my dog to the group home because the residents loved it. He was a little dog. And she was 21, and she came and she said, "I can't come anymore because they know that I can hear them and they're pulling at me."
Yeah, see, I have an off switch. So
She
like when I go up
hadn't
to a
learned
nursing,
how to use that
I
yet.
didn't learn till later on.
Yeah.
But so when I go into a nursing home, I was in a nursing home, and a friend of mine's granddaughter was in there, and she knows I can do this, so she wanted to know if I got any messages from her mother. But before I walk in that building, that off switch
Shut
went
it
off
off.
because
Yeah.
too much activity,
Yeah.
activity. Yeah.
Thank goodness she learned how to control that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing once you learn how to control it. Yeah. So I learned how to control it because I was at Gorton Junior High School before they did middle school, and I'm standing at the bottom of the stairs, and I go to my friends. It was the first day of 8th grade, and they were all 7th graders going up the stairs, scared to death. And I said to my two friends, "Isn't it beautiful? The great grandmothers and grandfathers are here to make sure they're not scared the first day of school." And they looked at me like I had 3 heads and a tail.
Of course they did.
So I did close it off, and then
Right.
about 2 weeks after I graduated high school, it was back in fuller swing than it
Right,
was
because you
before.
didn't want to be out there and be different.
I don't think I wanted to. I think it was such a shock to me to realize everybody didn't see what I saw.
Oh, okay.
It totally blew my mind that everybody didn't see that.
Didn't see that.
Because I
Okay.
was fortunate enough in that respect.
Your family encouraged it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why.
So it was crazy. So now what thing do you like doing the most?
I love feng shui.
Feng
I
shui,
really
that's your
do.
favorite?
I do.
You
I
gotta
love
come to the
it.
Mind's Eye and teach a class. We'll have
I
to set
love
up a
it.
class.
I have the dowsing rods that swing, you know. I've done, I did a factory in West Warwick one time. I was
you?
contacted by this woman that knew that I did that, and they were having difficulty with business. And so she was very good. I went through the whole 2 floors with the rods and did everything. And everything I did, she wrote down, and she made the changes.
Nice.
They got a big...
Explain a little bit what feng shui is. I know what it is.
So
but so
feng
the
shui
audience does.
is about the chi energy. So you can do it, it's really about, it's in your body, like that's kind of like, I feel like that's kind of like the Reiki. It's the chi energy that's in your, flowing through your body. But when it's almost like reading a home or reading a space. So it's like doing a card reading, but it's different. I get
So now what do you get?
feelings.
Certain things need to be moved so that way
Yes.
it lets the energy
So
flow.
basically, it's like a map. If you took a square, a piece of paper and divide it into 9 equal sections, grids, and then the top back left is money, the top back right is relationships, the back middle is fame or reputation, the front is middle is career. The left is wisdom, the right is helpful people, and then you have family, children, and health in the center. So you stand with that, like if I was coming into a room and the door, I would stand where the door is with that. You're either going to have 3 door positions. You're going to have left, center, or right. And then you can assess the whole building, a house. You can then assess each individual room. And it's kind of like, if you come home from work and you bring a box of files that you have to go through, and you put them down somewhere in some section. And then your sister calls and there's a problem. You got to go watch the kids so she can go to the hospital with one of the other kids. And you don't get to that box of stuff that you were supposed to do. So now it just stays there. It's clutter. Now, you might put another box there. So depending on where this clutter is, affects what's going on in that area. So if you're cluttering your money area or your health area, so there's all different aspects. And I can walk into someone's home and it's like doing a tarot reading. It's very much like
So
that.
I have a very open house because I don't do it. My daughter lived with me in my house. My living room was Toys R Us at one point.
Yep.
And I couldn't walk through it. It
Right.
almost makes me.
It does. It makes you all...
So I've got my upstairs fine, but I did find it's so amazing when you do make those changes. So we were talking out there earlier about cleaning the basement. The basement was clogging stuff in my life. I know it was. And now that I've got it 90% cleared,
it feels different, doesn't it?
Everything feels different.
So the problem that happens is like every time you walk by those 2 boxes you've got in that area, you don't think anything about it, but here's what it does. It pulls at you and it says, Patty, you promised you were going to take care of me, and it weighs you down. And the more clutter you have, the more weighed down you are.
Yep.
And so changing it, you can rearrange furniture, you can use mirrors, you can use water. You don't have to go reconstructing your house. There's different things you can do to affect the change.
Oh, excellent. I've touched on it, and I have
I
friends
love
that
it.
have done it, but I've never had as clear understanding, so I do thank you for that, because I've never had as clear as understanding. I have always had, when you have too much crap around,
Yes.
then you know what I mean. So I've always known that, and I've always known when I felt bogged down, I go through my closets and empty them,
Right.
and do things, you know what I mean?
And you can't just empty the space. That's one of the hard things, because it's like if you go in and you clean a hoarder's home, they just fill it back up again. You have to, if this is a section that's empty and that you're cluttering, you have to find a purpose for what that area
I'm a pitched
is.
sister, so I don't have a problem with that.
You know, you might want to put a table there. You might want to put a shelf there, something that it's not just an empty clutter hole, you know.
Yeah, that's excellent. That's really, so we do need to talk afterwards,
Yes.
because I would really love to have you do something like that,
Okay.
because it's something different that I've never had done at the shop.
Oh.
I've had a few friends that have mentioned they like to do their house and set up their house feng shui,
Right.
and that kind of stuff. But I knew what it was as far as
Yes.
positioning, but that is a very cool thing. I need to have empty space. Well, and you've noticed the shop, the big room you
Right.
walk in. I need that room. Do you
To
know what
feel
I mean?
right,
To
yes,
feel right.
yes.
And then the back room that I have, I like that warm feeling of it being surrounded with chairs. Do you know
Right.
what I mean? But I have to have space. So it's very interesting. That is
Yeah,
super
it is.
interesting.
It's and you can, and then using the dowsing rods, you know, you will pick up on where the clutter and where the negative space is and what needs to be changed. Even if you, like, I can do it without them, but it gives people that visual
Yeah.
that they can see
And I like
it,
dowsing rods,
because
too. I think they're cool.
You've used them before,
Yeah,
so
yes.
I loved showing that to people. Like if I'm trying to make a point of something, you know, I'll ask someone to close their eyes and I'll have the rods and I'll say, I want you to think about a very negative experience in your life. And you will see the rods just close completely
gosh.
while they're doing that.
I never knew that you could do that.
And then you'll say, I'll say, okay, now I want you to clear that from your thoughts. And I want you to think about a really happy time and a positive, and you watch them open right up. And I like to do the negative first, so you leave with the positive.
That's beautiful.
But it's a great way, if you're doing a demonstration for someone, to get other people to see
Yep.
that you're not just holding the rods and making them move.
Well, in actuality, I mean, it's a lot of like, I'm an excellent manifester and stuff like that. So it's almost like you're helping them manifest and remove the,
Yes, and remove the
blockages
negative.
and
Yes.
the negative. Yeah. Oh, that is wonderful. What good work that is to
Yeah,
do, huh?
it's fun.
So do you have your house really feng shui?
I do, when I pay attention to it, and then
We all do.
Even it's like if you're a therapist, you almost ignore your own issues. It's like, so every once in a while I'll go through and redo stuff, and then it just happens.
Yeah.
You get sidetracked with life.
No.
Yes.
You get
Work,
sidetracked with life?
yes, you get sidetracked with life. Yes.
So no, that is fabulous. I'm so glad, because we've never done anything on feng shui up here
Oh,
before. So
that
I'm
would
very
be fun. Yeah.
I'm very excited about it,
Yeah.
and I'm excited we haven't on the show either. So that's some really cool information.
I didn't even think we were going to
Thank
talk
you.
about that.
Well,
it just came up.
Well,
Who knew?
I'm pretty good about figuring those things out. So tell me something else you do.
Something else.
Now, have you ever done qigong?
No.
Okay.
I don't know what that is.
That is kind of like it's like a karate, but you can sit on your butt and do it. So it's,
Oh,
do you know
that's
what I mean?
pretty
But
cool.
it's like the energy and stuff like that.
I've done Tai Chi.
Tai Chi, yeah.
Yeah, I did
Qigong
that
is-
for a while. It's very helpful with balance, Tai Chi.
Oh, I should do that.
Yeah, it's very, it
Weebles
helped me.
wobble and they don't
yeah,
fall
Weebles
down.
wobble, that's right. It's very helpful with balance.
So now, Now, do you read just family, or do you do it at?
No, I actually used to do, I never really like set up to do tarot anywhere, but I work in the healthcare industry and senior care, and I would get these like assisted livings that would want me to do an event. So I would agree to do cards for an event, but you can only read so many people even in a short reading. So then I started bringing my daughter in to help me do it.
Nice.
And we used to do them together.
Well, I used to, for this like hospice type of thing, I used to do, and it was part of a senior living, and I used to do meditations for the cancer patients and stuff like that, and do healing work.
Nice.
And then to thank me, they had me come in, and they had one of their social events, so they could pay me a few dollars. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And they had a social event. They had me do readings. So the whole night before, I said, please don't have them ask me when they're going to die. Please don't have me ask them when they're going to die.
Did anybody ask you?
The very first one did. She was about 45 years old. She had Parkinson's disease.
Oh, okay.
And so she asked. The rest of them were hot tickets. I had so much fun. Half of them wanted to know if they would get another chance with a boyfriend.
Sex. Do you know how much sex goes on in these facilities? No, it does. It does.
So that, and then I also had a gentleman that had been a professional magician, and he had these fake $2 bills made out that had his face on it. And he did them so that he magically folded them so they said sayings on them.
Oh, wow.
And he did them for all my grandkids. He made them up and stuff. So I ended up having like the best time once I got through with that poor lady with Parkinson's disease. The rest of them, I had a blast. And it was funny, I had a younger man too that came for a reading, and he was Down syndrome and had other health issues and stuff. And he said to me, you know what? I never had a girlfriend before I came here, and now I have 6.
See?
Yeah, so it's funny, yeah.
It happens,
crazy,
it happens.
But doing that work is so important, though, because, like I said, those women were laughing and having such a good time.
Yes.
It made my day. It brought my energy, because I spent the whole night saying, please don't have them all ask me when they're going to die, you know? And it was absolutely fabulous. It was absolutely fabulous. So, and I love doing the meditations and bringing up the cancer patients, too.
Yeah.
So, and I kind of lost the girl that had me do it, moved out of state, and I lost the contact. So
they change all the time in those communities, the staff.
Well, I think some of it is because it's sad, and
they could only handle it for so long. Yeah.
So, so you did the readings. So I wanted to know something too. So you took Reiki 1. So what do you use that on yourself?
I took Reiki 1 for myself. Yes. Yes, and I've done it on other people, but I've never done it like professionally.
Yeah,
or
I took Reiki 1 because I had
pain.
I was very oh, you did it? I did it because I took a shaman apprenticeship, and they kept introducing. The lady was fantastic, and she had a store up in Maine, but her kids were going to school down this way, so she started working down here until they were done with college, so she could be there if they needed her. And so she worked out of Newport, and it was beautiful because even though she was a shaman, she also introduced you to every other healing art that you could ever think of.
That's nice.
And when she did, I would end up following through with it. So I went to this fabulous woman in Narragansett that was a Reiki master, and I said, I'm just taking it to see what it is. I'm not going to do any more than just the one Reiki. So she said, okay. So we did it, and I thought it was fabulous. And it was so weird because it was great because I actually saved one of my dog's life with Reiki.
That's wonderful.
Which was unbelievable. But it also, I found that because I put spirit, mind, and body into the stuff, it raised my channeling.
Everything. That's what it does.
Everything
works together. I try to explain that to people when they ask about stuff. I'm like, whether you're doing a card reading, you're doing feng shui, it's Reiki, it's all the same thing. It's energy. You're just reading energy. To make it the simplest way you can say it, you're reading energy.
So what I had happen, once everything leveled off, I go, I think I'm going to take Reiki 2 and see what happens.
I would like to continue with that.
And then I laughed so hard. Your daughter's a master. She can teach you.
Yeah, she could.
Yes. So And then I wanted to take Reiki 3, but I didn't want to take Reiki Master because I didn't want to teach it. I just wanted to do it, but I wanted one of the master symbols. So she didn't like to break up the class. Like when I teach it, I break it up because everybody either doesn't have the time or the money, you know, so I break it up. So finally I nagged her, and she goes, in 6 months, you're going to want to be a Reiki master. And sure enough, in 6 months, I wanted to be a Reiki master.
Right,
so,
see?
And then I constantly said, I'm never going to teach, I'm never going to teach. And I had a client that's become a very good friend of mine, and my daughter wanted it, and they bugged me and bugged me. So I said, I'll teach Reiki 1 and 2, but you have to go to my master for 3 and master. And they said, okay. And then as soon as they finished 2, they said, when are you going to teach us 3? And then I ended up following through and discovered I loved it. I absolutely loved it. Yep. And I think a lot of it is because I'm a head person and put mind, body, and spirit together.
Yes.
And I think that was the big thing with it. So it is pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
So as I said, the work on the animals, the dog I had ate a piece of sponge that go around the angels on your tree.
Okay.
And it got caught in the intestines, and then so $5,000 later, they told me I should put the dog down.
Right.
And so I brought it home, and I did Reiki on it. It said the worst scenario is I'll have it cross over softly.
Softly.
So I was checking it I was checking her all night long.
And she passed.
And no, the next morning I gave her another small treatment. She stood up, licked my chin, asked for a bone, went out, went to the bathroom. The world was a happy place, and she lived another 6-7 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, she had it removed surgically.
Oh, but she hadn't recovered.
She wasn't recovering. So it was absolutely incredible.
Oh yeah.
So it's all these
Think about
things.
every time you pet your animals. Every time I pet my cat, and he loves it. You know.
Yep.
They're feeling, especially if you've done any of it, even Reiki 1, it's enough for you to
and it was
do
Reiki
that.
1, it was Reiki 1. It was all I had too. I had I was trying to think of what kind. It was a Rockwilder mix.
Okay.
And one of those that somebody asked me to take him for the weekend, hoping I would fall in love with it and keep
you
it forever.
did, of
and
course.
I did. Yep. But that dog had a lot of stomach problems, and it was so funny. It would jump on the bed and flip on his back
And let you
have me do Reiki. Yes, it's so exciting.
They know.
I could talk to you for 3 days.
You can have. I remember where I took my Reiki. They had a cat there, and the cat would get up on your stomach while we were doing the Reiki. He loved it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Yep.
because they know they're attracted
Excellent.
to the energy.
Excellent. So Maxine Hutchins, if anybody wants to get a hold of her, can contact me. Or do you have a Facebook page or anything?
No.
Nope. Contact me,
Just
and I can get a hold of you.
Just contact
and,
Patty.
Anyway, and I'm going to have her teach a Feng Shui class at the shop.
That'd be
because
fun.
I'm so excited about
Thank
that.
you.
The prospects of
Didn't
that.
think that was going to happen.
I know.
Surprise.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.